And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Strategy Show. It is Wednesday, March 20th. I'm Josh Engleman, here to break down an 8-game NBA slate. 3 games at 10. We've got a 2-hour break between 8 and 10. Should be a fun slate, could be interesting, and we're already getting hit with news. Giannis Antetokounmpo is out tonight against the Boston Celtics. That news dropped about 30 minutes ago, so that has some impacts. We're going to have some fun. So hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow me on Twitter at Josh Engleman. And shout out to Sleeper for being the sponsor of this show. Yesterday was kind of gross. Had a couple lineups that got to where I would like to be to give me a chance, but ultimately not enough Amin Thompson in my life. And all the pay-up options, even Luka getting to 60, kind of uneventful. Bets were rough. Prize picks was rough. Lost out on my prize picks yesterday. Had Zion, I'm just going to say under 38.5 PRA. I don't remember what the number was. Hit 2 free throws. 55 seconds left in a 12-point game, and then immediately got subbed out to beat us by the hook. So that was frustrating. Just frustrating all around. But we're here today. Break it all down. Because of the Giannis news, I'm light on Sims to start off the show. Still waiting for the guys to get everything updated. You don't normally expect to get news there, so let's slow this down a bit. But I'm going to work through a couple games first. Then I'll head back once we have all of the data ready. I'll run my sim. I'll load it. We can check and see where everything stands for me retroactively. So no matter how many games we get in, I'll go back to the beginning, check out my stuff, and then we can pull up these stochastic sims as well. But for now, I'm going to just dive into it. We've got 8 games to talk about. We got to move quickly, or quick enough at least. So without further ado, let's break down some basketball. First game up, very easy. Miami Heat, 2-point underdogs in Cleveland, 202 total. This is the lowest total on today's slate by 14 points. Ugh. Awful. This is an awful spot for both teams, and you can see it on the screen. There's a lot of red out there. Now, Butler's questionable. Jovic is questionable. We have no Duncan Robinson. I think it's like back soreness or something, if I'm just going off the top of my head here. It is back discomfort. It's funny that that's a word that they use. Not that it matters. Look, this Miami team doesn't look good. Cleveland's good defensively, even missing their guys. They don't play fast. Miami plays even slower than that. I anticipate basically not having Miami if everybody is in. If Butler ends up out, then I think that we can start talking about Terry Rozier and probably DeLon Wright because of Duncan Robinson being out. We need to see the injury status first. This is like the worst game that you can get to. So I don't want, of all the games that we could spend time on, like Miami and Cleveland are going to be 2 of the lowest owned teams. Even with the best injury news, like it's not going to look good in this spot. Everything is going against them. Pricing doesn't look great. I don't have any of these guys with, I can even give you guys a perfect reference number. Give me 1 second. So if I just look at my like overall rankings for today's slate, the best ranking guy is Terry Rozier. If I find Terry Rozier in my list, I have Terry Rozier ranked as the 75th best play on today's slate. He's a negative 13 value relative to his target score. I have his target at 46. I have his projection at 33. 33 minus 46 is negative 13. That gets you 75th on an 8-game slate. You need to be in the single digits. And honestly, you're hoping to be like, if you want to have negative 9 down to the negative 5, which is the best right now, we're talking 36 guys. There's not a guy even close to that value right now. Maybe that happens for Rozier. Maybe Rozier sneaks into it, or maybe DeLon Wright sneaks into it if we lose Butler and Jovic. I don't really see much here for Miami. And when we hop over to the Cleveland side, a little bit better, but not by a lot. They continue to be without so many people. Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, Max Strus, Dean Wade. That's 4 rotation pieces just not available for Cleveland. Now, we do have a single-digit target value guy in Karis LeVert, 7,100, point guard, shooting guard eligible. He's been in around 1.1 fantasy points per minute over the past 30 days. He's been playing a lot better. 23% usage rate, 34% assist rate. Been having some big games. Is this a good spot? No. Miami's the second slowest team in the league. Bam Adebayo's healthy, so the defense is going to be good regardless. This is a tough spot. But if you're getting to anybody from Cleveland, it's LeVert. Okoro and Niang and Garland are like knocking on the door of being close. There's just so many better games. I mean, think about this. This game is a 202 total. Pacers Pistons is 233. Kings Raptors is 232. Jazz Thunder is 230. That's like 25 to 30 additional fantasy points just from points, not even counting missed shots, rebounds, extra possessions, all of that stuff. This game is just not one that we should be looking at. Good sip of coffee there, though. That's for sure. Big day today, guys. Immediately after this show, I get to hop in the car, take the dog to the vet so that he can get all of his sutures out of his side. So then he can get back to running around like a crazy dog in the backyard without ripping open his sutures. So very excited for him. He's been chomping at the bit to do some zoomies and play in the nice like 60-degree day. I'm happy for him. So shout out to Riggs for today. I don't. S&P. I don't know what to do with this. For a second, I looked up. I thought it was April 1st, but we have another couple days for that one. All right, let's go to game number 2. Indiana Pacers. They're 9.5-point favorites in Detroit. It's a 233 total. Oh God, this game. So the Pacers defense, 25th in the league. The Pistons defense, 26th in the league. Both of these teams are top 5 to top 10 in pace. Now, the Pacers could potentially be getting Doug McDermott back. He's questionable. Really doesn't make much of a difference for the rest of this team. Everybody else is healthy for Indiana. I mean, obviously, except for Benedict Mathurin, but that's not what we're talking about. So lots to like for the Pacers, but it's incremental. Remember what we talked about. We want to be single digits of value. We know how far down the list it takes you. Aaron Nesmith, on a day like today, where we don't have a ton of pay down options, he's shooting guard, small forward, so best position, 5K. Hasn't been playing well. Definitely projects a little bit better against the Pistons. He's who I'm looking at first. But you get Jalen Smith, Miles Turner, Pascal Siakam, all very reasonable options. Andrew Nembhard, TJ McConnell, Obi Toppin, Tyrese Halliburton. Like, you can kind of get to everybody except for Ben Shepherd today. Nobody looks amazing. Nobody looks ultra bad. It's a pack of like 8 guys from the Pacers that are all very reasonable in their own right. Right now, I'm leading off with Nesmith. I think that'll look different as more value comes out because then he'll look worse relative to the rest of the slate. But I want to get to a $6,600 Miles Turner. I want to get to a $3,900 Jalen Smith. I don't mind getting to Pascal Siakam, who just sits right there at like 1.2 fantasy points per minute like it's nothing. I'm going to have a little of a lot of the Pacers, I think is the best way to say it. They all just look good because the Detroit Pistons don't look good. They are a not very good basketball team. Now, speaking of the Pistons, if we look at Detroit, they are in a really nice spot. 25th defense for the Pacers, 5th in pace. Cade Cunningham sits at 7,900. He's the first guy that I would say is a priority for us today. 7,900 point guard only. 1.33 DraftKings points per minute over the last 30 days for Cade. 30% usage, a near 40% assist rate. I love the matchup. He is going to get a steady diet of like decent perimeter defenders. I don't really care too much here. He will be the guy that I get to the most from the Pistons. But I don't want to stop there. We have to deal with the injury situation for Detroit. Fontecchio is questionable. Quentin Grimes is out. Beef Stew is out. Asar Thompson is out. So I like getting to Jalen Duren. That doesn't really have much to do with the injury status. He's 6,900 center only. I want to get to both centers in this game, actually. However, if Stanley Amudi is going to get a start today, and I think he might start regardless of Fontecchio's status, but if Fontecchio is out, then he's almost assuredly going to start. Is he a good per minute dude? No. 0.75 fantasy points per minute. But he's 3,900. He's shooting guard, small forward, and he adds himself to the list as a very reasonable value play. One of the better things that we've looked at so far on this slate. I think you can get to Fontecchio if he is in. I think you can get to Jaden Ivey today at 6,600. But the main pieces for me for the Pistons right now are Cade Cunningham, Jalen Duren, and Stanley Amudi. That seems fun. So good. I love coffee, man. It's like the greatest thing in the world. Let's look and see if we've got any bets out there right now. Anything popping up in the old odds shopper for some of the games we've talked about. Aaron Nesmith, under 20.5 PRA, is minus 115 at Bet365. You can grab that. 11 odds shopper rating, 5.5% expected value. If we just want to look at NBA games, make it a little cleaner. Darius Garland, under 6.5 assists at plus 110. That's another 9 odds shopper rating. Darius Garland under 3.5 threes, minus 130. You can get that at Fliff right now. Another 9 odd shopper rating. So there's a couple pieces in these first two games that you can get to. It's not decaf. It's not decaf. So nothing to worry about there. It's real coffee. And boy, oh boy, does it hit the spot. I'm telling you, man, the cookie dough creamer, game changer for me. Game changer. I'm telling you, though, decaf's the play, man. At least for the first cup of your coffee in the morning, try to avoid caffeine for that first 90 minutes. Helps out a ton. All right, first two games are in the books. I'm going to check and see if we're making any headway on ownership. Updated 4 minutes ago, Jordan Nwora is the number one guy. Portis is getting ownership. Giannis isn't, so I can run Sims. Hooray! Hooray! So let's drop ownership into the sheet. Success. Let's drop a boom bust tool into the sheet. Perfect. And now let's run some stochastic sims. What brand? Khalifa, I think. That sounds right to me. I feel like I made a Wiz Khalifa joke to myself yesterday when I saw it. I'm not entirely sure, but I think the brand is Khalifa. All right, let's generate a contest using my projections first. And this is how easy it is to use the sim tool, everybody. This is what I do every single day. Not Mia Khalifa. That's good. I like that. Marcos, what's my go-to order in a coffee shop? Depends on the coffee shop. Like, I tend to get a Cafe Misto when I go to like a Starbucks, but if I'm at like a good coffee shop, I want like a quality coffee with very little shit in it. Splash of cream, splash of sweetener. The shittier the coffee, the more I want to dress it up. All right. So I've got my my pool, my 5,000 lineup pool already generated now for today. So now I'm going to switch to 30% to first. I'm going to download our custom projection template so that I can load my projections in for our first sim. This is so simple. You just have to paste in a couple columns worth of your projections. I have all of this already set up and ready to go in my workbook, so it becomes a very easy task for me. So I've already copied, pasted, saved, and now you can see I'm uploading my projections to our sim tool. You see where they're all red and green. That tells you whether or not my projection is higher or lower than the site projection. And then I just click the run sim button, and now we wait. Very easy stuff to do here, guys. Very easy. So I need to open up my Crunch workbook now as well. Your dad gets the Cafe Misto as well? Love you guys. That's fun stuff. That's fun to hear. Makes me feel like there's other people out there for me. On my corner a little bit. I only need to dress it up if it's shitty coffee. I love the taste of coffee. I want very little in it when it's a good cup of coffee. I'm wearing a hat today because I didn't get a shower this morning. The hair's here. You can barely tell. I don't care. But it's a hat day because I've got stuff to do. And I haven't had a chance to shower because I had to get some content out early. All right, so lineups are simmed. I'm going to export this entire file for myself. Click save. Override my previous file. And now I'm going to get it started on the stochastic sim so that we can have a second thing to compare it to. So I'm pulling up the contest generator and I'm rebuilding a fresh 5,000 lineup pool. Yay, us. And now I'm refreshing my own workbook so I can get my exposures. Dick Togo, yes, Giannis is out already. R. Stanley, I did the exact same thing. Technically, his first name is Marvin. His middle name is Riggins. But it's the South, so that's how that works. All right. I think I have my exposures ready to go. And we'll just see what I'm ending up with. We don't have to get too crazy with it. I don't want to make too many tweaks. Stochastic sims have the pool generated. Now I'm going to simulate lineups, but I'm going to remove my projections. And now we could run this contest sim on the stochastic side. So now that we have ownership, let's take a peek back at everything we've already talked about. Miami, highest owned guy is 6% to Jimmy Butler. I got 5% of Rozier. He's 5% owned. Highest optimal guy, Butler at 8%. Just a very uninteresting setup for Miami, as we expected. For Cleveland, I did get to 16% Levert. He's the only guy in double digits at 17% ownership. I have a little bit of Isaac Okoro, just a value-ish option at a small forward spot that's usually pretty difficult to fill. No priorities from Cleveland other than Levert. Levert is showing up with a little bit of negative leverage. Keep that in mind. But as I see it, there's not much in this first game. This one, a little bit different. Indy, 20% ownership to McConnell, 15 to Halliburton, 10 to Siakam, 10 to Turner, 10 to Smith, 10 to Nesmith. Now I'm getting patchy pieces of this. I'm a little over on Nesmith, neutral on Siakam. I actually didn't get to Turner or Jalen Smith, so we'll see what's causing that a little bit later. I'm under on McConnell. I'm fine with that. I'm under on Halliburton. I'm also fine with that. But we do want to get to pieces of Indy. I think what the ownership shows and what you see here on the optimal rates, 14 Halliburton, 11 Nesmith, 16 McConnell, 11 Jalen Smith, 10 to Siakam. There's a lot of interesting options for Indy, but it's hard to say that any one of them just immediately jumps off the page. Now for the Detroit side, oddly didn't get to Jalen Duren, which is making me think that I didn't copy my formulas down far enough. Yeah, that's probably what it is. We're going to look back at that Indy one too. I'm thinking I do have these guys, and we're about to learn that I didn't copy my formula down far enough. Yeah, there it is. So if we circle back to Indy, we do have 16% of Jalen Smith and 11% of Miles Turner. I was shocked to see those be zeros. That makes sense. Didn't copy my formula down. We learned the lesson. On the Detroit side, 29% to Cade at 19% ownership. I love that in this matchup. He's 19% optimal, 19% owned. I'm getting to 19% Duren at 12% ownership. Yes, I'm in. I want that. 15% to Stanley Moody at 5% ownership. Do I like it? No. Is he an interesting value play? Sure. Why not? All right, so we're caught up through the first two games. Let's hop over to the stochastic sims and see if they are in alignment. So Miami, basically unowned. Couple shares of Butler, couple shares of Rozier. Cleveland, 10% to LeVert. We know he's the best option. Minimal single digits across the board. Since we're still talking about the Cafe Misto, my preferred way to do it, one lone pump. You know me, I'm a one pump guy of the chocolate syrup. Just enough sweetness and just enough like flavor that makes that Starbucks shitty coffee a little bit more palatable. Indy, 39% of TJ McConnell in the stochastic sims. I don't anticipate that sticking around all day. As we get more value, plays like TJ McConnell won't look as interesting, but he does look interesting right now. And then Tyrese Halliburton is 23% exposed coming out of this sim. I don't mind it. I just think that we're going to find better point guard options. It's a great spot. I just don't believe that Tyrese Halliburton is the same Tyrese Halliburton we saw 3 months ago. Not from a skill perspective, just from a health perspective. After that, you're scattering the rest of Indy. 9% Siakam, 8% Nesmith, 6% Jalen Smith, 3% Turner. Lots of little pieces here. Jake DeWitt, that's a terrible payout, by the way. Terrible payout. You got to get the $1 billion from Warren Buffett. All right, that's Indy. Final one to look at from the stochastic sims is Detroit. 27% exposure to Cade. Couldn't be in bigger agreement here. Only 5% to Duren. I think we're missing a little bit on Detroit. I'm a bigger fan of the Pistons in this spot against the Pacers than we seem to be right now. Curious to see how that shakes out for the rest of the day. Okay, now we get to game 3. This is the one I think people probably want the most. Milwaukee Bucks. Actually, before we go any further, let's do schedule for the rest of the day because we got some stuff going on, and I would be remiss to not tell you what those things are. For example, where the hell are my... Where are my starred... Did I get fired in the middle of this show? Oh, this is easy. I thought there was another show today. Today, Deeper Dive, 5 p.m., myself, and what I thought was Laffy. It is now Matthew Bellman. You get Greg and Eric for Live Before Lock, and then I am back on playback with Greg, Matt Gajeski, popping in to talk some college basketball as well. So come join us for that one. And hit that like button if you haven't, guys. 370 people in the door. All right, here we go. The Milwaukee Bucks were 8.5-point dogs. I assume that line has moved. 224 total. At 9:30 this morning, we got the news that Giannis is out. So, very different slate. 30% ownership coming into Dame. 18 to Bobby Portis. 15 to Crowder. Now, we'll probably see this stabilize a lot. Some places probably don't have this rectified yet. This is the ownership for Milwaukee is in flux. Now, they don't look great, I might add. There's not a lot of value here for Milwaukee. Number 2 Boston defense, 22nd in pace. Like, this is a crappy spot for Milwaukee. I think you got to get to Portis. Probably doesn't start same way that we saw last time. Gonna have a much harder time going off like he did last time, but he's in 47% of my stuff. Bobby Portis is very clearly the best thing you can get to from Milwaukee now, assuming Chris Middleton can't just take a giant minutes jump. Dame's 30% owned. That kind of feels like easy to get away from to me. Now, he's 32% optimal in our first run. I only got to 10. I'm just not going to enjoy getting to Dame in this spot. So I wouldn't be surprised for me to be light on him. I have him at 1.3 fantasy points per minute. So I think that I'm being pretty realistic here. 32% usage, 38% assist rate. I just think we're going to find better options. If we're talking cash games, then that's a different story. Jay Crowder's 3,300. If he can get 29 or 30 minutes, is he a good per minute dude? No. 0.64 over the past month. But we don't have a lot of paydown options. And 3,300 salary with an MPE works. Everybody else is in single digits. I definitely like Dame more on FanDuel than I do on DraftKings. We did see Pat Bev get a little bit of positive leverage. He didn't really show up in my sims, but if you're interested in Pat Bev, I don't think that's crazy. If we look at the Milwaukee side in the stochastic sims, nope, that's still Cade Cunningham. 77% exposure to Damian Lillard. To be fair, I have Dame 5 fantasy points below us. So we'll see where this starts to rectify. Remember, all of this popped up the moment we got started. 18% exposure to Portis, 15 to Middleton, 15 to Crowder, 10 to Beasley, 9 to Beverly. There are things here to like for Milwaukee, but I'm pretty pessimistic on what this matchup is. Now, for Boston, we don't totally know what we're getting here. Porzingis isn't on the injury report. Jaylen Brown, Sam Hauser, and Drew Holiday are on the injury report. Nobody looks good here for Boston. I got to 7% of Tatum. He's 2% owned, and that's the high mark on DK. He's 5% owned on FanDuel. That's the high mark overall. No one has higher than 5% optimal. If everybody's in for Boston, you're not really going to Boston. Now, if Jaylen Brown, Sam Hauser, and Drew Holiday all end up out, we have a very different team to look at here. But as I see this one right now, it's very difficult for me to want to get to the Boston Celtics if everybody's healthy. And I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that there's not a lot of exposure coming into the Boston Celtics via the stochastic run. One single share of Kristaps Porzingis. That should tell you everything you want to know. Lots of exposure coming into the Sacramento Kings. 20% ownership to Fox. 20% ownership to Sabonis. 15 to Murray. 15 to Keon Ellis. 35 to Malik Monk. I am not a believer in the Malik Monk ownership right now. I got him at 1.1 fantasy points per minute. He's at 1.2 over the past 30 days. I feel comfortable with where I have him. But I do want to get to Fox. I think that ownership is justified. I want to get to Sabonis. I think that ownership is justified. I mean, Sabonis is just playing at a crazy rate. I have him projected for 23, 16, and 7 today. That's stupid. And Toronto stinks. I'm over the field a little bit on Keegan Murray. I'm over the field a little bit on Keon Ellis. Ellis is playing like 30 minutes a night now for Sacramento. He's played 34 now that Herter is hurt, 29, 28, and 27 in his last 4. I went 29 for Ellis. He's 3,700. He's a 0.75 guy, basically. Looks like a nice value option today. Now, where do we have Monk? So we have Monk 13% optimal, 35% owned. I'm in full agreement there. I think he's wildly overowned because I don't really think that he's in a position to pick up a lot because of Kevin Huerter. Like Keon Ellis has a better optimal rate. Murray has a better optimal rate. Fox and Sabonis are both pulling half the ownership. You got to get to a lot of Sacramento. And it's not that Malik Monk doesn't look like a good play on his own. I just don't think he looks like a good play at 35% ownership. But I want to get to a lot of Sacramento. Toronto, mid-pack pace, poor defense, and they're missing another real player today. Emmanuel Quickley out for today with personal reasons, I believe. Correct. Personal reasons. So everything's looking good here for Sacramento. Get to the pay-ups first. Fill out with Keegan Murray if you can. Fill out with Malik Monk if you can. Find a different place to get. Find another place in your lineup to get different. And then Keon Ellis. Really nice value option. Stochastic Sims, I assume, are going to be in line with me. I'm interested to see where they land on Monk. 29% exposure to Sabonis. 21 to Ellis. 17 to Fox. 16 Murray. 16 Monk. That makes sense. We're half the field of Monk. There's a lot of negative leverage there right now. My guess is that we see his ownership come down. But it's Sabonis. It's the value of Keon Ellis. It's De'Aaron Fox, who's 1.33 fantasy points per minute over the past 30 days. There's a lot to like here for Sacramento. There's a lot to like for Toronto, unfortunately. This is a problematic spot for us today. It really, really is. Call it 15% ownership to Bruce Brown, Gary Trent, Grady Dick, Kelly Olynyk, and Ochai Agbaji. 60% to Jordan Nwora, which my guess is a bit too high for right now, but neither here nor there. Great value play. And then another 25 to Jonte Porter. I'm getting to everything here. Because of the injuries for Toronto. No Scotty Barnes, no RJ Barrett, no Jakob Poeltl, no Chris Boucher, no Emmanuel Quickley. We got a lot going on here. I'm getting to 2x the field on Agbaji. 3,700, probably starting and playing 30 minutes. I'm neutral on Olynyk. I'm way under on Jordan Nwora. Now, I went 23 minutes. We went 24. Could probably give him another minute pretty easily. Definitely looks like a nice, one of the better point per dollar plays you'll get. Ownership be damned. We'll see how that shakes out later. I'm under on Jonte Porter. I don't mind that. I only gave him 20 minutes. We gave him 20 as well, showing a bunch of negative leverage. But I'm way over on $3,200 shooting guard, Jameis Ramsey. He's 5% owned. We have Ramsey in for 19.5 minutes. Now, I have a slightly higher projection, but I'm using him as a value play in lieu of Jordan Nwora, basically. Different position, similar vibe. I'm 2xing Grady Dick, so I'm going big on Dick. Gary Trent, 20% of my lineups. Bruce Brown in 13% of my lineups. We're going to need the starting lineup here in a big way. But this matchup, great for DFS. Sizable ownership coming into both sides. So much ownership coming in. We have 286% exposure. These are the two highest owned teams by far, and Toronto is the highest owned team on today's slate. I'm getting to everybody, except for Jalen McDaniels and Javon Freeman-Liberty. Everybody else is basically in 10% or more of my stuff. You have to be getting to the Toronto Raptors. They are a high-level priority on today's slate. If we want to talk about how they look in the stochastic sims, 96% exposure to Jordan Nwora, 60 to Ochai Agbaji, another 20 to Porter, another 20 to Olynyk, just shy of 20 to Grady Dick, around 11 to Gary Trent. Bruce Brown got to 7. Even Ramsey snuck in. Massive, massive, massive exposure to this game, to this team. This is the best spot on today's slate, bar none. No other options. All right, let's keep it moving here. We got to talk Sleeper quickly. They're the sponsor of this show. There's a link in the description of this video for you to sign up at Sleeper. They'll match any deposit you have up to $500. If you've got $238, they will match that deposit to $238. You can use Odd Shopper if you're looking for plays. I got an Odd Shopper deal coming for you in a little bit. You're building out cards. You're playing pick'em sites. Take advantage of the bonus money while you can, and then figure out where you actually want to play after you've cleared your bonuses. It's that easy to do. They've got dynamic payouts, so you can get a multiplier on some of your plays. You can get that to go all the way up to a 100x payout if things break your way. Not a bad way to build up a bit of a bankroll. Long shot for sure, but I know you people, you love your parlays. Anyway, signing up for Sleeper, no brainer, given that $500 match deposit. Click the link in the description to sign up. Keep your ears tuned to a little bit of Odd Shopper talk coming up in probably 10 minutes, 15 minutes, where you can get Odd Shopper for $1. That's going to help you out in a big way. If we look at any available bets right now, nothing for the games that we just recently talked about, unfortunately. So we can keep it moving. Utah Jazz. They're 2 touchdown underdogs in Oklahoma City, 230 total. We've got a Q tag on John Collins, and we're not going to have Lauri Markkanen today. Colin Sexton got to 14% ownership. There's a bit more love coming in on the FanDuel side, but this is single-digit optimal to everybody other than Colin Sexton. This is a terrible matchup. Very good OKC defense, not a very good Utah offense when they're missing their real guys. But I think Walker Kessler will be interesting if John Collins happens to be out. Kessler's 5,200. You give him a couple extra minutes. That's a good value at that point. For now, if Collins is in, I really don't want anything here. I don't mind getting to Colin Sexton, but I don't think that he's amazing. And I don't really want anything else for Utah because it's a bad spot. Hill, hit us with the 5 gifted subs, putting that up on the screen so people can see it. Shout out to Hill, or maybe Hills with the $sign. Not sure how I'm supposed to go with that, but either way, very thankful for you to do that. So I don't really want to talk too much about Utah because they don't look good. We shouldn't be playing much of Utah in a very, very bad spot. Other than Stochastic Sims getting to all of the Colin Sexton. Now, I'm 4 fantasy points lower on Sexton. So either I'm going to come up a little bit later today, we're going to come down. Truth is probably somewhere in the middle. That's probably what gets you in and around 15% ownership. So if you're a Colin Sexton fan today, he is the best Utah Jazz option. OKC, on the other hand, I love it. Utah Jazz are the 29th ranked defense on the season, and they're 10th in pace. This is a great spot for the Thunder. We're getting 20% ownership to Chet. We're getting 20% ownership to Jalen Williams. Around 10 for Giddey. 20 for SGA. Around 5 for Lou Dort. I'm over the field on Chet. He's in 30% of my lineups. I'm over the field on Jalen Williams. He's in 30% of my lineups. I am under the field on SGA to start the day, but we're seeing SGA, Jalen Williams, and Chet all 15% optimal. Now, that's a bit of negative leverage, but I'm happy to get to these dudes. It's as good of a matchup as you can get for Oklahoma City, and the pricing is pretty manageable for these Thunder guys. Now, Stochastic Sims are seeing it the same way. Jalen Williams in 26% of our lineups. Chet Holmgren in 24. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in 13. A little amount of Giddey. It's just a good matchup. We want to get to some Oklahoma City today because they're at home. taking on a Utah Jazz team that I just don't think is going to be able to crack the Thunder defense. So we want to get to a bunch of OKC. Then we get to the 10 o'clock games. The Memphis Grizzlies are 10-point underdogs in Golden State, taking on the Warriors. 218 total. Single-digit ownership to everybody from the Grizzlies. Highest is 8 to Jackson or LaRavia. You get Bane and Gigi Jackson to around 15 on the FanDuel side. LaRavia just barely crosses 10% optimal for DraftKings. I didn't get to double digits of anybody. 9% of Gigi Jackson is my best spot here. It's a decent enough spot for Memphis, but with Bane back and Jackson in, all of the usage is largely getting soaked up by those two guys. And all of these guys' prices are up since Jackson missed a bunch of time and Bane was obviously out for extended time. So difficult to get to the Memphis Grizzlies today, given their pricing. Stochastic sims and projections in the exact same boat. 4% LaRavia, 4% Bane, 4% Jackson, 2% Conchar. We're also looking at a Memphis Grizzlies team for today with a Q tag on Santi Aldama and still a doubtful tag on Vince Williams. Luke Kennard remains out for personal reasons. If Aldama ends up out, maybe we create a little bit of value. But as of right now, it feels like Memphis is tough to get to. Now, the Warriors look even worse. 6% ownership to Steph Curry is the highest owned guy on DraftKings. 12% to Draymond Green on FanDuel. I got to 9% of Curry, which I rarely do, but he's the highest optimal play from the Warriors. Curry down to 8,700. It's a pretty reasonable price tag, but we got to remember, Memphis's defense on the season is 10th. When Jaren Jackson is in, this team's a real defense. And with Bane back, that helps even more. So I don't love the spot for Golden State. They're not really pulling much ownership. They have 20% aggregate ownership, which is oddly high for the slate. But the people that are under them are Philly at 19, the Clippers at 15, Phoenix at 10, Boston at 7, Miami at 15. It's not like they look good. They're just part of a group of teams that no one should get to. Now, I have very little else to add on the Warriors side. And if I check it out in the stochastic sims, I think we're going to see the same scenario. And we do. 3% of Steph and a single share of Draymond Green. Now, if we look for any potential bets, we have under 5.5 rebounds for Andrew Wiggins. He's also in my prize picks video 4 and under. That's on DraftKings right now. That's a 10 odds shopper rating, 4% expected value. You can grab that right now. It's the best play listed on Odds Shopper right now. Take advantage if you want to, guys. Do you know why you should take advantage of it? If you're in a sports betting state and you don't have Odds Shopper, do this. Click the link in the description of this video. The promo code is MADNESS, MADNESS. $1 for Odds Shopper for a week. Exactly what I'm showing you. You get it for $1. If you're on the pick'em side, it's the same product. We take a market-based approach to beating the books. We give you expected value, expected win rate. We've got parlay builders and calculators and all sorts of different tools to help you with odds boosts and free plays so that you can get the best out of your money. This offer ends tomorrow at noon. You're insane if you don't take advantage of this, and you can. Like if you bet or if you play on the pick'em sites and you haven't used Odds Shopper, there's no reason to not do this for $1. You can cancel at any time. You're only out $1. But take advantage. I use this product every day now that it's legal in North Carolina. I couldn't recommend it anymore. Our NBA product has smashed 4% ROI across 40,000 bets so far this season. The results speak for themselves, guys. Take advantage of this deal. You don't want to leave this till past tomorrow. You'll probably have a ton of plays that you can get in the tournament if you're interested. So take advantage now. Link in the description. And to the 454 people that are here, hit that like button. We go to Philly. And by the way, we barely have anything to talk about for the rest of this. The last 4 teams that we have in this are Philly, Phoenix, the Clippers, and Portland. Phoenix is 10% owned. The Clippers are 15% owned. Philly is 19. Portland is 28. There's essentially no ownership to these 10 o'clock games. 5% ownership is coming in to Kyle Lowry. 9 to Tyrese Maxey. Now I'm getting 21. I actually like Maxey a lot. There's a Q tag on Tobias Harris. I'll like Maxey even more if he ends up out. It's a good matchup against Phoenix. I think Maxey is a very sneaky option in a large field contest. I don't want to get to anything else, though. Single-digit ownership on the FanDuel side. Only Maxey got above 6% optimal. He's very clearly the best option and will look better if Harris is out. Not only that, if Harris doesn't play, and he hasn't played the last 2 games, Nick Batum gets a minutes bump. Kelly Oubre gets a usage bump. We find a couple tiny pieces of value, but this is Tyrese Maxey and Tyrese Maxey only for me. Stochastic Sims for Philly. %18 exposure to Tyrese Maxey. We are in agreement. 3% exposure to Kyle Lowry. And that's it. That's all we have. Just gross. Just truly gross. It's Maxey and nothing. But don't worry, guys. That's a theme. Phoenix, the highest owned guy on DraftKings for Phoenix. It's 3% Nurkic or 3% Booker. The highest optimal rate is 4.6% to Yusuf Nurkic. They're at full strength. No one looks good. You can only roster one of 4 people. Beal, Booker, Nurkic, Durant. I don't even want to do that. I got 5% of Durant. That's the most of anything. 5% Booker is the ownership on FanDuel. That's the high mark there. This game looks bad. It just does. The pricing's not helping. The matchup doesn't really help from a pace perspective. Neither one of these teams play fast. Phoenix and the Sims, 1 individual share of Kevin Durant. This game is as unappealing as it could possibly be other than Tyrese Maxey. And yet, we have another one that is also unappealing. The LA Clippers, the final game, 11-point favorites in Portland, 216 total. The Clippers are at full strength for their stars. Q-tag Terrence Mann, Q-tag Norm Powell. Highest owned guy for the Clippers, either 4% to Kawhi Leonard or 4% to Paul George. Highest optimal rate, both of those guys got to around 7. I got to 5% of Zubats in my run. They just don't look good, even in a decent spot. The Clippers are dead last in pace now. Portland is 23rd. We do not have a very good matchup here at all. If we look at the Clippers in the Stochastic Sims, 2 shares of Kawhi Leonard and 1 share of Ivica Zubats. We're not getting here, and we shouldn't get here. These guys are pivots at best. There are no priorities for the Clippers. For Portland, 10% ownership to Anthony Simons, 10% to DeAndre Ayton, 4 to Scoot. Now, I'm getting a little bit more here. These guys are kind of sneaky. Doubtful tag on Jeremy Grant, Q tag on Matisse Thybulle. I don't mind getting to Anthony Simons. It is a pace down spot for sure. But 28% usage, 29% assist rate, he's 7,600. You just need him to score. When you're going to get a big Simons day, he's going to score 30 real points, and you're going to need that at a minimum in a GPP. So I don't mind getting to Simons as a sneak play. DeAndre Ayton has been absolutely deadly as of late. 1.36 fantasy points per minute over the last 30 days. He's been playing really, really well. He's 8,200. I'm happy to 2x the field if he's going to be 9% owned. That doesn't bother me in any way. We have a Clippers team that is 22nd in defensive rebounding, 18th in offensive rebounding. Not a lot to write home about there. And then now Scoot into the starting lineup, doesn't have a minutes limit anymore, allegedly. 5,400, point guard only 4% owned. Portland looks to me like a GPP pivot team. No one you should be like excited to get to, but I do think they have a couple guys that you can get to at low ownership that could provide some value. We see Simons and Ayton both around 10% optimal. Not as much love for Scoot. That might be more my scene. But I kind of like Portland a little bit more than the public seems to. Stochastic Sims are at least in a little bit of agreement for me on Ayton. He's in 13% of lineups. They do not agree with me on Anthony Simons or Scoot Henderson, however. But as I look at it, I'd like to get a little bit more Portland. This is a spot that I might deviate a little bit. Not to mention, locking up some exposure here for Portland does allow me to have some more viable swaps since we have 6 teams at 10 o'clock. All right, let's take a look at final sim results. Let's take a look at the best lineups on DraftKings. So number 1 ROI lineup to start the day. TJ McConnell, Colin Sexton, Ochai Agbaji, Keegan Murray, Chet Holmgren, Tyrese Maxey, Jordan Nwora, Damian Lillard. Does no one play after 8 o'clock in that lineup? No. Nobody from Memphis, nobody from the Warriors, nobody from Philly. No, Maxey's in that lineup. Okay, that makes a little bit more sense. I was gonna say, man, that looks rough. So that is the number 1 lineup on the DraftKings side. Last thing we have left to do is reward the people from FanDuel. Let's go ahead and run a FanDuel sim. So let's get that pool generated. Yeah, Einsteinium, very simple. My thoughts on the Sixers Suns game. You can play Maxey and no one else from the game. Probably not the summary that you were looking for. All right. Player pool or the contest generator is done. Now we're simulating the FanDuel lineups. Let's see what we get on the FanDuel side. Bam, questionable now. Cool. Gonna be one of those slates today, huh? Fun. Ooh, my watch is charged. That's always good news. Yeah, you do get a lot of janky lineups in the dog days of March, that's for sure. Jamal Parker. Yes, I have done some betting. You can follow me on Pickit, Pikkit. I post every single bet there. The moment that I post, I have a bet. It's available to you guys. I can give you everything that I've done. And I threw a bunch of crap against the wall for that first couple days. But yesterday I was down 2.5 units. Monday I was up 2.9. Sunday I was up 3.4. Saturday I was up 1.3. Friday I was up 0.4. Thursday I was up 5.1. Last Wednesday down 0.3. Last Tuesday down 2.3. So I don't know. Let's call that -3, +2, 2.5, 4, 7.5, 10. I'm up like 7 units since we started. All right, FanDuel Sim is done. Number 1 ROI lineup to start the day. Tyrese Halliburton and Damian Lillard, decent combination. Chris Dunn and Ochai Agbaji, Jazz players, reunite. Bruce Brown and Grady Dick, corner in the market on Raptors. Jimmy Butler, John Collins, Bam Adebayo. If we're looking at just exposures, I will favorite the top 150 lineups in the Sims tool. And we will see 3 guys got to 70% exposure. Damian Lillard, Ochai Agbaji, and Jordan Nwora. 2 guys got to the 60s. Bruce Brown and Grady Dick. We drop all the way to 48% for Colin Sexton and 38% for Kelly Olynyk. And then everybody starts to blend in a little bit more. Alrighty, guys. We have reached the end of the line. 8 games up, 8 games down. Fun stuff all around. We're slowly getting more injury news. I think we're going to be in for a tumultuous game. If we're lucky, we get a lot of Q tags and garbage in those 10 o'clock games. We have the big DraftKings contest today. There is no better thing for you than having lots of late news on a slate like today in that contest. No one's making late swaps in the way that they should. There's an incredible amount of value to you by playing that contest and hoping for chaos late. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Good luck. Sign up for Odds Shopper. Sign up for Sims. Sign up for Lineup Generator. Sign up for whatever you want on the DFS side. We have links in the description of this video. No matter what you do, sports betting, pick'em sites, DFS, we have you covered in some way, and we have a price point that'll work for you. Good luck, everybody. It's been swell talking to you guys. I'm back for the deeper dive later today. Talk to you later. This was The Strategy Show.